Imagine you are out traveling and exploring the grasslands of Africa, seeing the beauty of its nature in awe. Suddenly, you see a crash of rhinos peacefully satisfying their herbivorous diet with the young playing amongst themselves. All is plentiful, all is peaceful. Unfortunately, this sort of sight is rare to come upon and will become impossible if we do not keep taking action and raise awareness. This image I displayed for you all was set in the early 1900s. Between 1960 and 1995, it only took 35 years for the population of black rhinos to decrease by a staggering 98%, where less than 2,500 rhinos survived this genocide. To put in other terms, it took the average lifespan of a black rhino, 35 years, to utterly decimate their population. Fortunately, since then we have managed to double the population to a little over 5,000 rhinos, which is still a fraction of what the population used to be, and are still classified as critically endangered. The black rhino, also known as the Diceres bicornis, is one of the oldest group of animals on this planet and play a key role in their ecosystem. They are considered a mega herbivore, a large animal that has a herbivorous diet, and a lack of these animals could impact the grasslands in a negative manner. In comparison to the Yellowstone wolves incident where the wolves were hunted to a minimal population size, the deer population increased well beyond the carrying capacity, and the plant species in the area suffered tremendously from it. In this case, the population that would go extinct is the first level consumer. In response to this, the producers, the plants, will not have any animal keeping the grass short and it will grow beyond reason. You may be thinking, more grass, more producers, so what's the problem? As it turns out, having short grass actually plays a key role to the biodiversity of the area. Rhinos play into biodiversity by choosing to eat different plants over others, and by doing so, the plant that is spared is given an opportunity to flourish and grow. Without rhinos in the picture, this level of diversity in the fields is no longer possible. This diversity also plays a huge role in serving as natural carbon sinks, where the plants store the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. As one can see, every action has a consequence, and disturbing nature always leads to a sort of domino effect that will only damage the environment even more. The creation of conservation spaces for rhinos also helps the survival of other animals, as a safe haven is created for them as well. Unfortunately for some people, saving the planet is not a clear incentive to take action against this atrocious act, and those in control of the countries that lay home to the rhinos may ask themselves, what benefits can we reap from saving these animals? Well, rhinos serve as a great part of tourism, as sightseeing is extremely lucrative in the countries of Africa. Between the years 2006 to 2014, poaching has costed African countries between $230 and $260 million in revenue. Furthermore, it has been predicted that the extinction of the species will cause wildlife tourism to fall by around 20%. Countries like Zimbabwe, Tanzania, and Namibia all have dense populations of rhinos, and tourism makes up for more than 8% of their entire contribution to the nation's GDP. Not only do rhinos help save the environment, but they also play a role in funding the GDP of many countries. So what is the root of this problem? Why has the population decreased by this much? The blame traces back to humans, which is seemingly the root of every natural catastrophe. Poachers had set out to hunt down rhinos for their extremely lucrative horns. International gangs have also started to fund these poachers by arming them with heavy artillery to easily track and kill these animals. With these armed weapons, it has also become increasingly difficult to defend these rhinos from extremely dangerous poachers that are willing to go to the length to collect their money. So why the horns? The horns of a rhinoceros are mostly bought by Asian consumers, primarily Chinese and Vietnamese. They utilize the horns for pseudoscience in the traditional medicine, but in more modern times, it has been collected to act as a symbol to boast about one's social status and wealth. More so, now than ever before, the extreme decline in the population of rhinos has caused the value of their horns to increase drastically, creating an even bigger incentive to those who don't value the life of an animal. The hunting of the horn itself is obviously illegal under CITES, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Fauna and Flora. But to someone whose yearly earnings is less than the price horn of a rhino, the care for the legality of the matter is very minimal. Another problem that rhinos are facing, other than people coming to slaughter them for their horns, is an increase of habitat loss. Land constantly being cleared to make way for human settlements, as well as agricultural production and logging. Now, this is a problem that does not concern rhinos. This impacts every animal living in the world, but this specifically has been harder on the rhinos. With less land being accessible to the population, it has become harder for the beasts to recover and increase their population. Many countries have lost all of their rhino population due to this. Ivory Coast, Guyana, Togo, Nigeria, Chad, Sudan, Central African Republic, and Burkina Faso. Yet another suffering of the rhino population due to the human matters is the political conflict and corruption in many of the countries that home the land of rhinos. In areas that are active war zones, where there is political corruption and instability, rhinos have less grounds to be safe on, and poachers take great advantage of this. Many law enforcement also do not take wildlife crimes as seriously as they should be. Instead, many other offenses take the forefront of the law enforcement's attention, such as drug smuggling. The problem with how the wildlife crimes are dealt with is that it is seemingly only a local problem. For example, a sentence of only 2 months was carried out to three women that were caught with 43 kilograms ivory and 2 kilograms rhino horn. Meanwhile, the only serious action is taken when the poachers that kill the rhino itself are caught. So with all of these problems, what is there to do? Doing what I have done here and raising awareness is certainly a start. Donating to organizations that set out to help and restabilize the population of the black rhino to its glory as it once was is also a good place to go. SaveTheRhino.com is a good organization that accepts donations to help keep this fight alive as well as the rhinos. AWF.org, which is African Wildlife Foundation, carries out the same mission as well as the opportunity for one to donate to them to keep funding the conservation grounds that black rhinos so desperately needed in order for their survival. Help make the image I presented in the beginning not just a figment of our imagination. These animals, alongside many others, have suffered at the hands of our mishandling, greed, and ignorance. Take a stand and blow the horn to stop the poaching of horns.